The city of Lagos was alive, as it always was. Horns blared from streets below, the hum of traffic never ceased, and somewhere in the distance, a music system blared through the walls of a wedding hall. But inside Ada's heart, there was a strange stillness, a quiet unease she couldn't quite place. Tomorrow was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. She would wake up to the smell of fresh flowers, the flutter of silk, the warmth of smiles all around. She would walk down the aisle, hand in hand with Chaik, the man she had loved for years. Every detail had been planned, every dream imagined. And yet, tonight, something felt off. Ada had spent the afternoon with her mother, last-minute adjustments to the wedding invitations, the gentle brushing of the silk train on the floor, the hum of excitement mingled with nerves. The small things, the delicate lacework, the polished shoes, the tiny bouquet of white roses, had consumed her, but they had not dulled the gnawing in her chest. A whisper of doubt she tried to dismiss. She shook her head. Tomorrow. Tomorrow is everything. Stop imagining shadows in the light. Her phone buzzed. It was Chaik. Almost done with the work, Ada. I'll be home soon. Sleep early, my love, the message read. She smiled at the screen. She wanted to believe it. She wanted to feel the warmth, the love, the promise that had carried them through years of laughter, arguments, shared secrets, and dreams. But a tiny part of her, the one that had learned to notice details, to see patterns where others saw none, paused. Work this late? She didn't dwell. She tucked her phone into her bag and stepped into the cool night air. The streets were damp from an earlier drizzle. The glow from the streetlights reflected on the puddles like scattered gold. Ada loved the city at night, in moments like this, when it seemed to hold its breath. She walked with light steps, her heels clicking softly on the pavement, a rhythm she had always found comforting. As she passed Chaik's apartment building, a strange feeling curled in her stomach. She had walked past this building countless times, had joked about the neighbors' habits, the flickering lights in their windows, the constant smell of fried plantains from the corner shop. But tonight the building felt different. Heavier somehow, as if it was aware of her presence. Ada's eyes drifted to the curtains of Chaik's apartment. A light flickered, then went out, then flickered again. She paused. He said he was finishing work. She tilted her head, trying to convince herself it was nothing. But then came the sound. A laugh. So intimate. Not the playful laugh she had heard in restaurants or in the quiet of their apartment during weekends. No, this was different. Familiar, yes, but with a note she had never heard directed at her. Her heart seized. Curiosity tugged her forward. Fear tried to pull her back. But she moved closer, closer than she should have, until the faint outline of Chaik and another man became visible through the curtains. Her breath caught. Chaik's arms were wrapped around him, fingers intertwined, faces close, bodies pressed together in a way that made her chest tighten and her vision blur. The intimacy was undeniable. Every detail etched itself into her memory, the tilt of his head, the way he held the other man's hand, the smile on their faces, a smile she had never earned. Ada stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a sob. Her mind was a storm of disbelief, betrayal, rage, and heartbreak. This cannot be real. Yet, every fiber of her being told her it was. Every laugh, every touch, every glance she had seen through that thin curtain confirmed what her heart had refused to admit. She pressed herself against the wall, trying to disappear, as if she could melt into the night and erase the image from her mind. But it lingered, sharper than any knife. Memories of late nights he had spent working, weekends she had spent waiting, promises whispered under moonlight, all of it now felt like lies. She could hear him clearly now, his voice soft, tender, intimate in a way he had never been with her. And the other man's laughter, that laughter, so familiar yet terrifying, echoed in her ears. Tears blurred her vision. She wanted to run, to scream, to confront, to collapse, but she couldn't. Her body had frozen. She had always believed love was sacred, unshakable, eternal. She had believed in Chaik. And yet, here it was, shattered in the span of a few fleeting seconds, exposed behind a veil of night and dim light. The city around her continued its clamor, indifferent. Lagos never cared about heartbreak. Lagos never noticed betrayal. But for Ada, the world had narrowed to that apartment, to that embrace, to that devastating truth. She backed away slowly, her mind racing. Every instinct screamed for confrontation. She wanted to burst into the apartment, demand answers, yell, cry, break everything in sight. But another part of her, the part that had learned to survive, to calculate, to protect herself, warned caution. Tomorrow is the wedding. If you confront him now, everything will be ruined. And yet, can you really walk down that aisle knowing this? Her legs carried her mechanically away from the building. The sound of her heels against the wet pavement felt deafening, each step a drumbeat of the betrayal she could not erase. She sank onto a nearby bench, clutching her bouquet, her hands trembling so violently she could barely hold it. Images of Chaik's smile haunted her mind. The moments they had shared, the late-night conversations, the whispered confessions, the laughter over foolish jokes, all of it now seemed like a cruel mirage. She had been blind, yes, but not stupid. There had been moments, subtle clues she had ignored, the hushed phone calls, the unexplained absences, the faint scent of a cologne she didn't recognize. She had dismissed them, choosing belief over suspicion, love over fear. Now, the cost of that belief lay before her, raw and bleeding. Ada pressed her face into her hands. Her tears soaked her palms. Rage, despair, heartbreak, each emotion collided inside her, leaving her gasping, unable to find solid ground. She thought of the guests arriving tomorrow, her parents' faces, the carefully planned ceremony, and the glittering dress she would wear. How could she step into that world, knowing the truth? How could she smile? How could she laugh? How could she say I do to a man who had deceived her so completely? The night deepened. Sounds of the city, distant music, honking horns, footsteps on wet asphalt, faded into a background hum, as if the world itself were giving her space to confront the storm within. She thought of confronting him tonight. The very idea made her pulse race. She could demand the truth, force a confession, make him see the destruction he had wrought. But what then? Would she forgive him in the heat of raw emotion? Or would the confrontation destroy everything she had ever dreamed of, not just tomorrow, but the years they had built together? And yet, to ignore it? To step into the sunlight of the next day pretending everything was fine, while the lie festered and thrived beneath the surface. That seemed impossible too. Her mind raced, circling the same questions, the same tormenting possibilities. Do I confront him? Or do I bury this truth? The laughter she had heard earlier now haunted her imagination. She could see it, hear it, feel it, not just in that apartment, but inside her own chest. The sound was a cruel echo, a reminder that everything she had held dear was now tinged with deception. Ada stayed on the bench for what felt like hours, the night wrapping around her like a cold shroud. She thought of love, she thought of trust, she thought of herself. And slowly, with trembling hands and a heart that felt like it had been hollowed out, she realized that whatever choice she made tonight, nothing would ever be the same. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Chaik. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Sleep well, my love. Ada stared at the screen, the words a bitter mockery. Sleep would not come tonight. Joy would not come tomorrow. The world she had built with love, hope, and dreams had cracked. And she was left to decide which pieces to gather, and which to let fall forever. The night pressed in, silent but heavy. And somewhere, inside her, a fire began to grow, a fire that would demand answers, demand truth, demand reckoning. She stood, brushing rain-soaked hair from her face, and looked back toward the apartment. Her decision had not yet been made. But the moment had come. Tomorrow would never be the same. Will Ada confront Chaik tonight, shattering everything in anger and heartbreak? Or will she bury the truth and step into her wedding, pretending all is well while her world silently collapses? The city of Lagos slept fitfully that night, unaware of the storm brewing inside one small apartment. But Ada did not sleep. Not yet. Her mind replayed the scene she had witnessed, frame by frame, each memory sharper than the last. Chaik, his body pressed to another man, the intimacy she had never imagined, and the laughter, soft, cruel, familiar, still echoing in her ears. Her hands shook as she clutched her phone. She typed a message, then deleted it. I know. No, we need to talk. Each word felt like a trap, too weak, too simple, too inadequate for the betrayal she had seen. Words could not capture the weight of deceit. She rose from the bench, the damp night air clinging to her skin, and walked toward the apartment. Each step felt heavier than the last. Her mind alternated between fury and sorrow. She could almost hear her own heartbeat over the distant traffic, the rapid pulse, the thundering rhythm, the warning. Confront him. Confront him now. Or you'll wake up tomorrow as a liar in your own life. And yet, what if it ruins everything? Ada's mind spiraled through the memories of their years together. She remembered the first time she had met Chaik, the shy smile, the way his eyes had crinkled at the corners when he laughed. She remembered the nights he had held her, whispering promises of forever. She remembered the way he had proposed, knees bent, heart open, the small diamond glittering in the lamplight. All lies. Every lie. Her chest tightened. The thought of confronting him filled her with a paradoxical mixture of dread and longing. She wanted answers. She wanted him to feel the weight of what he had done. She wanted him to see the devastation etched across her face. And yet, a part of her feared what might happen if she crossed that threshold. The building loomed ahead, dark and silent, except for the faint glow from his apartment. Ada paused at the door, pressing her hand to the cold metal. She could hear faint voices, soft, indistinct, but unmistakably Chaik's. Her stomach churned. Her mind begged her to turn away, to flee into the safety of the night, to hide from the truth that would consume her. But she could not. She pressed the buzzer. Her name echoed in the apartment, a soft chime against the walls. There was a pause, a long, suffocating pause, and then the door clicked open. Chaik stood there, smiling, the kind of warm, reassuring smile he had always reserved for her. And yet, it was fragile, forced, almost guilty in its tension. Ada, he said, voice smooth but hesitant. What are you doing here? It's late. Her throat tightened. Words failed her at first, replaced by the raw, burning tide of emotions surging through her. Anger. Betrayal. Her love twisted into grief. We need to talk, she said, voice trembling but firm. Now. Chaik's smile faltered, just slightly, a flicker of something she could not yet identify. Of course. Come in. The apartment smelled faintly of cologne and the faint lingering aroma of food. Ada's eyes swept the room, searching, and then froze. The other man was gone. Chaik was alone. But the intimacy of the earlier embrace, the laughter, the whispered words, none of it left the memory. Ada's hands clenched into fists. She could feel her nails digging into her palms, grounding her in the present. Where were you? She asked, voice low, sharp, trembling with contained fury. Chaik raised an eyebrow, hesitated, then smiled, a smile that did not reach his eyes. Work, he said. Long hours, you know that. Ada's eyes narrowed. I walked past your apartment tonight. Chaik, don't lie to me. Her words hung in the air, heavy, accusing, undeniable. Chaik's smile faltered again. He looked away, his fingers tracing the edge of the coffee table. You're imagining things. No, I'm not imagining, she snapped, voice rising. I heard you. I saw you. With him. Don't you dare try to gaslight me. A silence fell. It stretched and twisted, thickening the air between them. Ada could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant wail of a siren, the faint heartbeat in her own chest. Chaik's eyes finally met hers, and for the first time, there was a crack in his composure. Please, let me explain. Her laugh was bitter, harsh, breaking against the edges of her pain. Explain? Explain what, Chaik? That you've been lying to me? That all this time, everything I thought I knew about you was a lie. He stepped closer, reaching for her hand. She recoiled. I didn't mean for you to find out this way, he said. His voice was soft, almost pleading. It's complicated, Ada. You have to understand. Understand. Her voice cracked with anguish. Understand that my fiancé has been holding another man, laughing with him, loving him, while I was planning a future with him? You expect me to understand that? Her hands shook, and tears blurred her vision again. Chaik's expression softened, but there was no remorse. Only hesitation, only the faintest glimmer of guilt. Ada's mind raced with memories of their relationship, each one now reframed by betrayal. The weekends he had spent working late, the soft excuses, the subtle avoidance of questions. The gifts he had given, the whispered confessions, the shared dreams, all now felt tainted, hollow, a carefully constructed performance. And yet, a small part of her, the part that loved him, that wanted him, fought against the anger. Could he explain? Could there be a reason? You're going to tell me the truth, she said, voice barely above a whisper, trembling with anger and fear. Everything. No lies. No excuses. Right now. Chaik inhaled sharply. Please, it's not what you think. I care about you. But she cut him off, shaking her head, stepping back, her hands flying up. Don't even try. I saw everything. I don't need your words. I don't want your lies. Just tell me why. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. His face softened into something almost human, almost vulnerable. It's complicated. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. I love you, Ada, in my way. This happened and I didn't know what to do. Ada's stomach churned. Love me in your way? Chaik, look at me. Look at what you did. Look at what you've done to us, to me, to everything we were supposed to have. Chaik reached for her again, and again she recoiled. The physical distance between them mirrored the chasm in her heart. Hey, please. I'm sorry. No, she shouted, the word ripping through the room. Her voice cracked, carrying the weight of every betrayal, every sleepless night, every suppressed suspicion. Sorry? You think sorry can fix this? You think your apologies can stitch together the pieces of my life you've shattered? Chaik's face fell, and for a moment, Ada thought she saw genuine regret. But before she could process it, a sound came from the hallway outside the apartment. A knock at the door, sharp, insistent, unexpected. Both of them froze. The sound echoed in the small apartment, amplified by the tension in the room. Who? Chaik began, but the knock came again, louder, more urgent. Ada's eyes darted toward him, searching for an explanation, for any sign that this was ordinary. But Chaik's face betrayed panic. Just a flicker, but enough to make her heart lurch. She felt it instantly. The confrontation she thought she had under control had escalated into something neither of them anticipated. Her mind raced. Who is there? And then the door creaked open, just a crack, and a shadow fell across the threshold. Ada's pulse thundered in her ears. Fear, anger, confusion, and heartbreak collided inside her. She realized, with a sinking certainty, that this night had only just begun, and the revelations were far from over. Something, or someone, unexpected had arrived, interrupting the confrontation and sending shockwaves through Ada's world. The betrayal she thought she understood was about to become even more complicated, more dangerous, and far more heart-wrenching. The morning sunlight poured through the lace curtains of Ada's room, soft and golden, but it did nothing to warm her heart. Today was supposed to be the day she had dreamed about for years, the day she would walk down the aisle, radiant in white, hand in hand with Chaik, promising forever. Instead, her chest felt heavy, her heart bruised, and every breath was laced with the bitter taste of betrayal. The dress lay on the bed, pristine, untouched by the storm raging inside her. Ada's mother hovered nearby, fussing over details, unaware of the torment simmering beneath her daughter's composed exterior. She adjusted the folds of the silk, smiled softly, and said, "You look beautiful, Ada. Today is your day." Ada forced a nod, a fragile, mechanical smile. Yes, today. Inside, she was anything but ready. Her mind replayed the confrontation from last night. The words, the panic, Chaik's fleeting guilt, the shadow at the door. Every image haunted her, but she had made a choice. For now, she would step into the ceremony, pretend the world was intact, and hide the storm threatening to consume her. The drive to the wedding hall was silent, the car filled with the muted hum of the city waking up. Chaik sat beside her, dressed in his crisp white suit, his hands folded neatly, his smile carefully curated. But Ada noticed the subtle signs, the tension in his jaw, the slight tremor in his hand as he adjusted his cufflinks, the way his eyes flicked nervously toward her from time to time. They arrived at the hall, a grand space adorned with white roses, golden candelabras, and 1,000 twinkling lights that reflected off polished floors. Guests milled about, laughing, chatting, unaware that beneath the surface of perfection, 2 lives were about to fracture. Ada's friends surrounded her, fussing over the final touches of her hair, the placement of her veil, the delicate lace gloves. They gushed, "You look amazing. Chaik will be speechless." She smiled, a mask that hid the turmoil, nodding and thanking them. Inside, each compliment was a dagger. She remembered the laughter, the embrace, the betrayal that waited for her just 24 hours ago. She wanted to scream, to run, to pull the entire hall into chaos. But she didn't. Not yet. The music began, a soft, orchestral piece, and the first notes resonated through the hall. Ada took a deep breath. Her veil lay across her face, and for a fleeting moment, she felt the surreal separation between the world outside and the storm within. Her father took her arm, guiding her toward the aisle. "Are you ready, my daughter?" he whispered. She nodded, her voice caught somewhere between a sigh and a sob. "Ready. Ready to pretend." Step by step, she moved forward, the polished floor reflecting the lights, the guests' eyes, the future she was meant to embrace. Every smile she received felt like a test of her endurance. Every cheer, every whisper, every look of admiration was a reminder of what she could never let them see, the shattered trust, the knowledge that the man beside her had deceived her in ways she could not undo. Chaik's eyes met hers briefly as she approached. He smiled, carefully, just enough to seem composed. But Ada saw it, the flicker of panic, the almost imperceptible guilt. Her chest tightened, and for a moment, she wondered if he would break, if he would confess, if he would unravel before the ceremony began. She fought to keep her composure, her hands gripping the folds of her dress. Memories flashed behind her eyes. The first time he had held her hand, the way he had whispered promises under moonlight, the laughter they had shared on long nights together. And then, like a cruel overlay, the memory of the night before, the embrace she had seen, the laughter she had heard, the betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. The officiant's voice echoed softly as she reached the front. "We are gathered here today." Ada's heart raced. She stood before friends, family, strangers, all witnesses to the beginning of a life she no longer knew was hers to claim. Chaik extended his hand toward her, and she took it, her fingers trembling, her palm pressed against his. The ceremony progressed, each vow a silent battle within her. "Do you, Chaik, take Ada to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the officiant intoned. Chaik's eyes were fixed on her, unwavering, confident. But Ada saw beneath the surface. The subtle twitch of his lips, the tension in his grip, the way his pulse seemed almost visible beneath the skin of his wrist. He was holding something back, and she knew it. "Do I speak?" Her mind whispered. "Do I expose him now, in front of everyone? Do I tear this illusion apart before the final vows?" But she didn't. Not yet. She forced herself to stay silent, to stay composed, to endure. Each vow was a tightrope, every word a balancing act between rage and restraint. Her mother's eyes glistened with tears, her father's grip firm and reassuring. Ada could see the love surrounding her, the faith that she would step into happiness. And she wondered, bitterly, if any of them would forgive the truth when it emerged. Chaik's voice, calm, steady, echoed through the hall. Chaik, take you, Ada?" Her stomach twisted. She imagined the moment she could not erase, the image of him with another man. And yet, she moved forward, step by step, word by word, masking her inner devastation with a practiced smile. The officiant guided them toward the final vows. "And now, as you exchange rings." Ada's hands shook slightly as she received the ring. Her gaze locked with Chaik's, searching for any hint of honesty, any trace of remorse. But his eyes, cold and unreadable, met hers, and she realized something chilling. He had learned to lie with perfection, to mask the truth with charm, with control, with defiance. Her pulse quickened. She fought to keep the trembling from her fingers, the sob from her throat. She had almost made it, almost navigated the perfect storm of deceit and expectation. Almost. Then from the side of the hall, a murmur rippled through the crowd. A guest shifted, whispered, pointed. Ada's eyes followed, and her stomach plummeted. Chaik's subtle defiance vanished, replaced by the faintest flicker of fear. Something, or someone, had appeared, a presence she did not anticipate, a threat to the fragile balance she had maintained. The music faltered, the officiant paused, and all eyes turned toward the source. Ada's chest tightened. The secret she had carried, the betrayal she had endured, teetered on the edge of exposure. She realized, with a jolt, that the night's events, the confrontation, the hidden truths, everything she had tried to control, was about to erupt in front of everyone she loved. Her heart raced. Her hands gripped the ring, the veil, the fabric of her dress. The guests whispered, murmured, eyes wide, senses heightened. And at that moment, Ada understood one devastating truth. Nothing would ever be the same, and the world she had built, piece by piece, could collapse in a single heartbeat. Just as the ceremony began, a shocking twist, a presence from last night, a revelation in plain sight, threatened to expose Chaik's betrayal in front of everyone. Ada's choice, her secret, and her control hung by a thread. The hall was silent, a taut, fragile stillness stretching between every guest. All eyes were on the source of the disruption, the murmur from the side of the room spreading like wildfire. Ada's heart pounded violently in her chest, each beat echoing the truth she had carried, the betrayal she had endured, and the storm about to erupt. Chaik's face, once composed and confident, had changed. The subtle mask of charm, of control, had slipped. Fear flickered in his eyes, a raw, primal fear he could no longer hide. Ada felt a grim satisfaction, but it was tempered with dread. The night's revelations had been building for days, weeks, months even, and now they were poised to crash down in a way she could neither stop nor fully control. The door at the far side of the hall opened wider, and a figure stepped forward. Recognition shot through Ada like a lightning strike. The man from the apartment, the one she had glimpsed through the curtain, whose laughter had haunted her nights, stood there. Gasps rippled through the guests. Some turned away, unwilling to witness the confrontation. Others leaned forward, curiosity piqued by the unfolding drama. The officiant, momentarily frozen, cleared his throat, unsure how to proceed. Ada's vision sharpened. Every detail of the man, the tailored suit, the subtle confidence, the way his eyes met Chaik's, stirred a mix of fear, anger, and vindication in her. She felt the weight of all those months, all those lies, all those stolen moments, and suddenly, she was no longer just the betrayed bride. She was a force of reckoning. Chaik's composure faltered completely. "Wait," he began, voice strained. She turned to him, her eyes blazing. "Wait? You want me to wait while you've lied to me, humiliated me, betrayed everything we were supposed to have?" The man from the hallway stepped closer, voice steady but with an edge that left no room for denial. "I think it's time the truth comes out." The guests whispered, some gasping, some stepping back, the tension so thick it could be sliced with a knife. Ada's mother clutched her hand, her fingers trembling, sensing the emotional magnitude of the moment. Ada's father's jaw tightened, his eyes filled with quiet dread. Chaik's lips parted, searching for an excuse, a lie, a defense, but none came. Ada could see it. The man who had seemed untouchable, who had charmed his way through her life, who had promised forever, was now exposed, vulnerable, naked before the judgment of everyone he had tried to manipulate. "You owe her the truth," the man said, voice steady. "No more hiding, no more excuses." Ada's chest heaved. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The guests waited, breathless, anticipating the inevitable collapse of a world that had seemed perfect only hours ago. Then Chaik spoke, voice low, almost desperate. Please. I can explain. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I love you, But Ada cut him off, her voice cold, deliberate, carrying the weight of months of betrayal. Love me? Chike, if this is love, then I don't want it. Not like this. Not after everything you've done. Her words hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. The guests murmured, some in shock, some in disbelief. The tension between the two men, and the woman caught in the middle, was palpable. Ada could feel every heartbeat, every tremor, every flicker of emotion like a current running through her body. She took a step forward, her heels clicking against the polished floor. She no longer felt fragile. No longer felt betrayed in a way that left her powerless. This was her moment. She could confront, expose, or reclaim. And she chose to reclaim. Turning to the guests, she spoke with a quiet, unwavering authority. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I had dreams, plans, a future built on trust. But trust has been broken. And yet, this is not the end of my story. A hush fell. Ada's words, deliberate and measured, commanded the room. No one spoke over her. No one interrupted. She continued, I'm not here to cry. I'm not here to beg for pity. I am here to take control. What happens now, what happens next, is mine to decide. She turned to Chike, whose eyes flickered between fear, shame, and desperation. You will answer for your lies. You will face the consequences of your actions. And I will rise above them. The man from the hallway stepped aside, allowing the confrontation to remain centered on Ada. Chike opened his mouth, then closed it. He wanted to argue, to justify, to reclaim some semblance of control, but he could not. The power had shifted. The guests began to murmur, sensing the collapse of the fairy tale before them. Ada's mother sobbed quietly, tears of fear and empathy blending with pride. Ada's father's grip on her shoulder tightened, a silent acknowledgement of her courage. Ada felt a strange calm settle over her, a clarity she had not known since the moment of betrayal. The storm inside her had reached its peak, and now, for the first time, she was not reacting. She was leading. She turned her gaze to Chike one last time. This is where our story ends. Not with promises, not with lies, but with truth. Remember that. And with that, she stepped back, allowing the moment to breathe, to exist in its raw, unfiltered reality. The room was silent, every eye fixed on the shattered remnants of a relationship that had once seemed unbreakable. Chike's face was pale, his confidence evaporated. He opened his mouth, then shut it again, realizing that no words could undo the damage, no excuses could erase the betrayal. For the first time, he was powerless. Ada took a deep breath, her chest heaving, her hands trembling slightly, but this time, not from fear. From liberation. She had survived the night, the confrontation, the public exposure, and emerged on the other side. She was no longer the woman broken by deceit. She was the woman reclaiming her story, her dignity, her life. The guests began to whisper among themselves, the ceremony forgotten, replaced by the drama unfolding before them. Some looked at Ada with awe, others with sympathy, others with silent judgment. But none could touch the power she felt, the clarity, the fierce, unyielding strength that radiated from her. Ada stepped forward, moving past Chike, past the whispers, past the remnants of her shattered dreams. She walked to the exit of the hall, pausing only once to look back. Chike remained frozen, a shadow of the man she had once loved, incapable of meeting her gaze, incapable of reclaiming the narrative he had so carelessly destroyed. Outside, the city stretched into night, lights glimmering on wet streets, cars honking distantly, a world continuing without pause. Ada breathed deeply, filling her lungs with the cool night air. The weight that had pressed on her chest for weeks, months even, lifted slightly. She did not know what the future held, nor did she care to know just yet. For now, she had reclaimed herself. For now, she had survived the storm, confronted the betrayal, and stood upright amidst the wreckage. And yet, a lingering thought gnawed at her. The confrontation had exposed Chike, yes. But had it revealed everything? Had the shadows of his secrets fully surfaced, or were there still pieces hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again? Ada's eyes narrowed slightly. The fire inside her, tempered by pain, by rage, by heartbreak, burned steady and fierce. She would watch. She would wait. She would not be caught off guard again. The night stretched before her, full of possibilities, full of dangers, full of truths yet to be discovered. Ada walked forward, not toward a wedding, not toward a future built on lies, but toward herself, her strength, her clarity, her unbroken spirit. The city of Lagos continued its restless hum, oblivious to the drama, the heartbreak, the fury, and the reclamation of one woman who had refused to be broken. Ada had taken control of her life, exposed the betrayal, and faced the consequences head-on, but one question lingered: had she uncovered all of Chike's secrets, or were there darker truths still hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to resurface? Subscribe and stay tuned. Ada's story may have reached a crossroads, but the night has a way of revealing more than we are ever prepared to face.